am because they have cultivated virtues by skillfully bringing to union and harmony those who were in great misery because of love, separation, faction, or dispute. Having spoken these words, Maitreya Buddha will praise Kayamuni Buddha, very good. Very good. He was able to teach and convert, in the world of the five turbidities, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, and kois of evil sentient beings, enabling them to develop their good roots and to be reborn at the place where I am. Maitreya Buddha will repeat his praise of Kayamuni Buddha 3 times and then speak in verse, the great guiding teacher, enduring adversities and fiercely valiant, was able to teach, convert, and bring evil sentient beings to maturity. In the unwholesome world of the five turbidities, enabling them to train themselves and to see the next Buddha. Enduring great sufferings in carrying sentient beings, he now has entered the state of eternal bliss independent of conditions, and has advised his disciples to come to the place where I am. To glorify Nirvana, I now will pronounce to you the 4 noble truths, as well as the 37 elements of Bodhi and the 12 links of dependent origin. You should observe that which is asaskta and enter the state of silent nyat. Having spoken this stanza, Maitreya Buddha will also praise those who were able to achieve difficult things at that time in the miserable evil world. He will say, you were able to observe the precepts and perform virtuous deeds among people who were greedy, angry, deluded, confused, and short-lived. That is rare. At that time sentient beings did not appreciate their parents, nor Ramas, or Brahmins. Not knowing the Bodhi way, they harassed and harmed one another, resorting to violence and war. Deeply addicted to the 5 desires, they were jealous and sycophantic. Deceitful, sinister, and pitiless, they killed, ate flesh, and drank blood. They had no respect for teachers and elders, and they did not know beneficent friends. They did not know such things as repaying kindness. Born into the world of the 5 turbidities, they had no sense of shame or dishonor. Day and night in the 6 periods, they performed evil deeds continuously, not recognizing limits. They did only the unwholesome, gathering evil deeds such as the 5 rebellious acts, like densely arranged fish scales, never feeling disgusted. Clans and even 9 branches of family could not help one another. Very good. Very good. Kayamuni Buddha, with great skillfulness and wisdom, out of profound loving kindness and compassion, was able to speak honest words in a gentle and pleasant manner to long-suffering sentient beings, announcing that I will deliver all of you. Such a guiding teacher who has illuminating keen wisdom is a rarity in the world and hard to encounter. Deeply pitying the sentient beings in the evil world, he wanted to eradicate their sufferings and give them peace, enabling them to enter the highest truth in the profound Dharma nature. In 3 Asakaya-kalpas, Kayamuni Buddha, for your sake, trained in difficult ways and ascetic practices, enduring sufferings as he gave others his head and cut off his ears, nose, hands, and feet. It was for the sake of the eightfold right path and for liberating you equally, to benefit you. In this way Maitreya Buddha will guide and comfort innumerable sentient beings, making them happy. The sentient beings at that time will be such that their bodies will be purely instilled with the Dharma, their minds will be full of the Dharma, and their mouths will always pronounce the Dharma. The population will be composed of those who have merit and wisdom. Even gods will respect, trust, and admire them. At that time the great guiding teacher Maitreya Buddha will want them each to hear about their sufferings in the past. He will also think this thought: the 5 impure desires are the roots of sufferings, but the knowledge that sufferings and pleasures are both impermanent can remove their anxieties and sorrows. He will then pronounce to them the 5 aggregates: form, sensory reception, perception, mental processing, and consciousness, as well as sufferings, emptiness, impermanence, and the non-existence of self. As he speaks these words, 96 koi people will no longer embrace the dharmas perceived by the senses. Having ended their discharge of afflictions and liberated their minds, they will attain arhatship, complete with the 3 clarities, 6 transcendental powers, and 8 liberations. 36,000 godsons and 20,000 goddaughters will activate their anuttara samyak sabadhi mind. Among the 8 classes of Dharma protectors such as gods and dragons, some will become Ratpanas, entering the holy stream, and others will plant the conditions for going the Pretika Buddha way. Those who will activate the mind toward the unsurpassed way will be so numerous that it will be beyond reckoning. At that time Maitreya Buddha, together with 96 koi great bhikkhus and the king Ranka, surrounded by 84,000 great ministers, bhikkhus, and retinues, just like the son of the moon god encircled by stars, will set off from the city of Kethama and return to the flower grove garden. At that time the lesser kings and elders in the cities and settlements in Jambudpa, as well as those from the 4 castes, will all gather under the dragon flower tree in the flower grove garden. In this second great assembly Maitreya the world-honored one will again pronounce the 4 noble truths and the 12 links of dependent origin. Then 94 koi people will attain arhatship. In other worlds, the gods, and the 8 classes of Dharma protectors, as well as people as numerous as the sands of 64 koi Ganges, will all activate the anuttara samyak sabadhi mind, standing firm at the level of no regress. In the third great assembly, 92 koi people will attain arhatship. 34 koi members in the 8 classes of Dharma protectors, such as gods and dragons, will rouse the sabadhi mind. At that time Maitreya Buddha will again pronounce the 4 noble truths, turning the profound wonderful Dharma wheel. Having delivered these gods and humans, Maitreya Buddha will lead his voice-hearer disciples and the 8 classes of Dharma protectors such as gods and dragons, together with the multitudes, and enter the city of Kethama to beg for food. Innumerable gods from pure abode heavens will reverently follow the Buddha into the city. Upon entering the city, the Buddha will demonstrate his spiritual powers with 18 transformations. Water will manifest below his body, like precious beads, and transform into a plateau of light, illuminating the realms in the 10 directions. Fire will manifest above his body, radiating purplish golden light like Mount Sumeru. He will appear enormous, filling the sky, and then transform into Virya. He will appear minuscule, like a mustard seed, and then vanish. He will rise in the 10 directions and then vanish in the 10 directions. He will make all humans to have bodies like the Buddhas. He will perform immeasurable manifestations, using various kinds of spiritual powers, and viewers who are ready will all be liberated. The god King Akrodevmindra, his 32 ministers, the gods from the desire realm, the god kings from Brahma heavens, and gods from the form realm, together with godsons and goddaughters, will remove and scatter over the Buddha their celestial necklaces and robes, which will turn into a canopy of flowers. Celestial music will sound without being played, hymning the virtues of the Buddha. As an offering to the Buddha, celestial flowers and various scents of sandalwood will rain profusely down from the sky. Banners will be erected on streets and roads. Choice incense will be burning, its smoke resembling clouds. When Maitreya the world-honored one is entering the city, the God King from great Brahma heaven and the God King Akrodabnmindra will reverently join their palms and praise the Buddha in verse, the Samayaksa Buddha, the two-footed honored one, in heaven and on earth, no one can compare. The world-honored one with the 10 powers is rare. He is the unsurpassed supreme field of good fortune. Those who make offerings to him will be reborn in heaven, and in the future will be liberated and dwell in nirvana. Obeisance to the unsurpassed great attainment. Obeisance to the great guiding teacher who has the mind of loving kindness. The God King Darsatra in the east, the God King Virhaka in the south, the God King Virpka in the west, and the God King Vairava in the north, together with their retinues, joining their palms reverently, will praise, with a pure mind, the world-honored one in verse. None in the threefold realm can compare to the one adorned with great compassion, who has realized and understood the highest truth. He has penetrated the nature of sentient beings and the appearances of all dharmas, seeing both enter the nature of emptiness. Standing firm in Niyat, he diligently makes energetic progress, yet nothing has been made, no footprints left behind. I now bow down my head, making obeisance to the great guiding teacher who has the mind of loving kindness. When sentient beings do not see the Buddha, they undergo life and death in the long night, going down to the 3 evil life paths, or assuming a woman's body. Today the Buddha has appeared in the world, who will eradicate sufferings and give peace and joy. The population on the 3 evil life paths is diminishing, and women no longer depend on flattery and deceit. All unfortunate ways should come to rest. Having fulfilled the great nirvana, the one who will relieve misery with great compassion, forgiving delight, has appeared in the world. When he was a Bodhisattva, he has always given others all the joy, never killing or distressing others. His endurance is like the great earth. I now bow down my head, making obeisance to the great guiding teacher who has endured all adversities. I now bow down my head, making obeisance to the great man who is loving, kind, and compassionate. Having himself transcended the sufferings of life and death, he can rescue sentient beings from tribulations. Like a lotus blossom born from fire, he is unequaled in the world. At that time Maitreya the world-honored one will beg for food from one door to the next. Then he will lead the bhikkhus to the original place, where he will enter deep dhyana, not moving for 7 days and 7 nights. Maitreya Buddha's disciples will be stately in appearance, like the forms of gods, but they will all be tired of birth, old age, illness, and death. They will all hear much of the Dharma, study and guard the Dharma store, and practice meditative concentration. They will all succeed in abandoning desires, like a bird leaving the eggshell. At that time the God King Akrodabnmindra, together with the god sons from the desire realm, joyful and exuberant, will speak in verse, the great guiding teacher, the refuge of the world. His wisdom I clearly sees all in the 10 directions. He surpasses gods in knowledge and virtue. With the right name and meaning, he benefits sentient beings. May we, who are like sprouts, together with your disciples, go to that mountain to make offerings to that disciple of the affliction-free Kayamuni Buddha, who was the foremost in the way of life. we should see the Dharma robe worn by the past Buddha and hear the Dharma he has bequeathed. For the unwholesome evil karma in our past lives in the turbid evil kalpa, we need to repent so as to be purified. At that time Maitreya Buddha, together with his great disciples and the sentient beings that were headstrong in their past lives in the Sa world, will go to the Drika mountain. Having arrived at its foot, they will serenely walk up the Wolf Track mountain. After they have reached the summit, Maitreya Buddha will touch the ground with his big toe. Forthwith, the great earth will move in 18 ways. Then Maitreya Buddha will split the cliff with both hands, just like the wheel-turning king opening the gate of a great city, to find Makayapa inside. At that time the Brahma kings will pour scented oil on the crown of Makayapa's head and over his body. Next, they will beat the great Dharma instruments and blow the great Dharma conch shells. Makayapa will then rise from the samdhi of total extinction. He will straighten his robe, bare his right shoulder, keel on his right knee, and join his palms. On both knees, he will hold the Dharma robe worn by Kayamuni Buddha and offer it to Maitreya Buddha, saying these words, "The great teacher Kayamuni the Tathagata, Arhat, Samayaksabuddha, upon his parinirvana, entrusted me with his Dharma robe and commanded me to offer it to you, the world-honored one." Meanwhile, everyone in the multitudes will ask Maitreya Buddha, why on this mountaintop today is a human-headed worm, puny, ugly, and dressed in the Rama's habit, able to pay homage and make obeisance to the world-honored one. Then Maitreya Buddha will rebuke his great disciples. He will speak in verse, telling them not to despise this person. The peacock has beautiful colors, but it can be eaten by the eagle. The white elephant has infinite strength, but the lion's son, although young, can grab and eat it like dirt. The great dragon has an enormous body, but it can be snatched by the golden-winged Garua. The tall and large human body, plump, white, and handsome, is a vessel made of the 7 treasures, but filled with feces. Its filth is unbearable. This person, although diminutive, has wisdom like tempered gold. Having long ended the afflictions and habits, with nothing left of the sufferings of life and death, for protecting the Dharma, he has stayed here. The most victorious among gods and humans, he has always carried out the two practices. The most victorious among gods and humans, he is unequaled in ascetic training. Kayamuni, the 2-footed honored one, has sent him to the place where I am. You all should join your palms with a single mind and reverently make obeisance to him. Having spoken this stanza, Maitreya Buddha will tell the bhikkhus, Kayamuni the world-honored one has taught and converted sentient beings in the world of the 5 turbidities. Among his 1,250 disciples, there was one with a golden body, who was the foremost in the way of life. To learn the way, he renounced family life and left his golden wife. Day and night he progressed energetically as if fighting a fire burning on his head. He was loving, kind, and compassionate to sentient beings that were poor and lowly, and always wanted to deliver them. For the sake of the Dharma, he has remained in the world. This person is none other than Makayapa. Having heard these words, the multitude will all make obeisance. At that time Maitreya Buddha will use Kayamuni Buddha's Dharma robe to cover his right hand, but it will cover only 2 of his fingers. Then he will use it to cover his left hand, but it will also cover only 2 of his fingers. The multitude, astonished by the tiny size of the past Buddha, will understand that it was caused by the sentient beings that were greedy and arrogant. Maitreya Buddha will tell Mākayāpa, now you can demonstrate your spiritual powers and pronounce all the sutras of the past Buddha. Then Mākayāpa will jump up into the sky and display 18 transformations. He will manifest an enormous body, filling the sky. The huge body will transform into a tiny one, like a flower seed. Water will manifest above his body, and fire will appear under his body. He will walk on the ground as if it were water, and then walk on water as if it were ground. He will sit or lie down in the sky, not falling to the ground. He will appear in the east but vanish in the west, and then appear in the west but vanish in the east. He will appear in the south but vanish in the north, and then appear in the north but vanish in the south. He will appear on the edge but vanish in the center, and then appear in the center but vanish on the edge. He will appear above but vanish below, and then appear below but vanish above. He will turn into a Virya grotto in the sky. By virtue of the spiritual power of the Buddha, he will pronounce with the Brahma sound Kayamuni Buddhistras in the 12 categories. When the multitude have heard the teachings, they will marvel at them as something that never existed before. Then 80 coy people will walk far away from their emotional defilements. They will attain arhatship, staying in dharmas of the senses but no longer embracing them. Innumerable gods and humans will activate the Bodhi mind. Mākayāpa will descend from the sky and circumambulate Maitreya Buddha 3 times. He will make obeisance to the Buddha and state that all saskta dharmas are impermanent. He will say farewell to the Buddha and return to the place where he has been, in the Gdrika mountain. Fire will burst from his body, and he will enter parinirvana. Then his relics will be collected, and a pagoda will be erected on the mountaintop to enshrine his relics. Maitreya Buddha will again praise him, Kayamuni Buddha, in the midst of the multitude, always praised the Bhikkhu Mākayāpa, saying that he was the foremost in the way of life and adept in meditation and the liberation samadhi. This person, although having great spiritual power, was never haughty. Always pitying sentient beings in poverty and sordidness, he was able to give them great joy. Maitreya Buddha will extol Mākayāpa's relics, saying, very good. Mākayāpa, the great disciple of the Aculion of great spiritual virtue, was able to cultivate his mind in that evil world. At that time the relics of Mākayāpa will appear in apparition and speak in verse, the to practice is a treasury. Observing the precepts is the sweet nectar. One who can carry out the way of life will definitely arrive at the ground of no death. One who observes the precepts will be reborn in heaven and in the bliss of nirvana. After speaking this stanza, the vision of Mākayāpa, like liquid virya, will return into the pagoda. The place where Maitreya Buddha will pronounce the Dharma will be 100 yojanas long and 80 yojanas wide. Each person in the multitudes, whether sitting or standing, whether near or far, will see the Buddha pronounce the Dharma for him alone. Maitreya Buddha will remain in the world for 60 koi years, and, out of sympathy for sentient beings, he will enable them to acquire the Dharma. After his parinirvana, gods and humans will cremate his body, and the wheel-turning king will collect the relics. 84,000 pagodas will be erected on the 4 continents. The Dharma proper will remain in the world for 60,000 years, followed by the Dharma likeness for 20,000 years. All of you should progress diligently, rousing your pure mind and performing good deeds. then there is no doubt that you will see Maitreya Buddha, the luminous lamp of the world. After the Buddha had finished these words, the Venerable Raputra and the Venerable Nanda rose from their seats, made obeisance to the Buddha, and knelt on their right knees. Joining their palms, they asked the Buddha, "World-honored one, what is the name of this sutra? How should we uphold it?" The Buddha told Nanda, "You should remember it well and expound it separately to all gods and humans. Do not be the person who will finally terminate the Dharma. The tenet of this Dharma is that all sentient beings should end the 5 rebellious acts, totally annihilate the hindrances caused by karmas, retributions, and afflictions, and cultivate the mind of loving-kindness, so as to walk with Maitreya Buddha. Accept and uphold it as such." This sutra is also called the sutra of all sentient beings, by hearing the name of Maitreya Buddha, definitely avoiding the world of the 5 turbidities and not going down to the evil life paths. Accept and uphold it as such. It is also called the sutra of the certainty to see Maitreya Buddha by obliterating the evil karma of the mouth, with a mind like the lotus blossom. Accept and uphold it as such. It is also called the sutra of the mind of loving kindness, not killing and not eating flesh. Accept and uphold it as such. It is also called the sutra of Kayamuni Buddha's Dharma robe as the evidence of trust. Accept and uphold it as such. It is also called the sutra of definite avoidance of the 8 difficulties if one hears the name of the Buddha. Accept and uphold it as such. It is also called the sutra of Maitreya Bodhisattva's attainment of Buddhahood. Accept and uphold it as such. The Buddha told Raputra, after the Buddha's parinirvana, if, among bhikkhus, upsakas, and upsiks, as well as the 8 classes of Dharma protectors such as gods, dragons, and spirits, there are those who, having heard this sutra, accept and uphold it, read and recite it, and make obeisance and offerings to it, as well as respect Dharma masters, they will annihilate all their hindrances, karmas, retributions, and afflictions. They will definitely see Maitreya Buddha and the rest of the 1000 Buddhas of this worthy kalpa. They will attain one of the 3 bodhis according their wish. They will not be reborn in a woman's body. They will renounce family life with the right view and achieve the great liberation. Having heard the Buddha's words, the multitude greatly rejoiced. All made obeisance to the Buddha and departed. Buddha pronounces the sutra of Maitreya Bodhisattva's attainment of Buddhahood translated from the Chinese Canon, Volume 14, text number 456.